folks, welcome back to Board Game Breakfast. Now, it's up a little bit late today because I went to the Gathering of Friends last week and my planes were delayed on the way back, so I got back very early this morning, and so just getting this up now. Normally I work on it a little bit ahead of time, but I hope that some of the content of this show makes up for that. Now, a couple things. First of all, if you did not watch the live question and answers I did with designers last week, I highly recommend it. Not because of anything I did, that's whatever. But these designers, they really gave some good stuff. And I had a chance to talk to some just really great, and hear some great interesting stories, some great designers, Friedman Fries and Vlad Cavato and Stephen Glenn, and there's so many other great designers. And so check those out. That they were posted all last week. We will be trying to pull the audio from those videos and put it on Board Game University, but I don't know how long or when we'll be able to do that. So at least you can just put them on in the background or something and listen to those. Tomorrow, we're going to be announcing the Dice Tower nominations for 2014, the best games of the year. We've had many people vote on those, and so that will be coming up tomorrow, so keep an eye out for that. Question and answers live will be today at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's a much different time than normal, but I've been doing it so early in the morning for the last week that I figured we should switch and do it at a different time this time. Okay, let's get to the news. What I thought I would do this week, instead of the news, is I give you a bit of news, but I want to talk about some of the upcoming games that I had a chance to play at the Gathering of Friends. Now, some of the games there I wasn't able to, or I'm not able to talk about because they're still in early stages, but there's some that I can tell you about. The first is City Mania. City Mania is coming from Days of Wonder, and it's just a game in which you are taking city tiles and placing them in a grid and trying to score points by placing them in that grid. But what makes this game unique and special is the way you get these tiles. There's another grid in the middle of the table, and you're placing arrows down, and you're placing these arrows down to grab a tile that you want while also trying to block your opponent's hits. Way more interactive than you think. It's very interesting, and I may be able to give you a sneak preview of it soon. I also had a chance to play Seven Wonders Duel. Now, this is a two-player game, but it is not Seven Wonders, the two-player game. It has a lot of bases in Seven Wonders, and many of the concepts you will understand. But this game, in essence, is a back-and-forth one where you can win by military, you can win by science, or you can win by having the most points if no one wins one of the other two ways. And the drafting takes place with like a tree where all the cards are laid out, so when I draft a card, it opens up other cards for your opponent to take, and it's a really stressful, back and forth, intriguing, one of the best two-player games I've played in a long time. Big thumbs up for me. Can't wait to see the final product. Then I had a chance to play Codename. This may be the talk of the convention, a party game from Vlad Cavato, in which players are, there's a grid of words out there, and you are trying to get your partner to guess words in this grid, and you are doing so by giving them clues about groups of words. It's kind of like Password, but a really clever twist on it, and I mean, I didn't meet one person who did not really like this game. It was constantly being played. Then Time Stories. This is coming from Space Cowboys. This is a game that there's going to be spoilers, so I can't talk too much about it, but in essence, you are going through this story, a story, and you go back in time and do the story, and you only have so much time to do it, and you will likely fail the first time through. So then you go back and try to do it again, this time ignoring red herrings that maybe you found the first time, or getting involved or making different choices. Really fascinating with really cool artwork and stuff coming out. And then finally, the game that's getting the most buzz, of course, is 504. 504 is a game from Friedman Fries in which there is 504 games in one box. Now this sounds audacious, it sounds ambitious, it sounds like the work of a mad genius, and that's probably what it is. I had a chance to play 2 of the games. There are 9 different modules in the game, and you can put these modules in, and the order you put them in matters, so therefore the permutations are 9 times 8 times 7. And the modules are things like war, or exploration, or stocks, or pickup and delivery. There's just different modules. And so I played 2 different games that were incredibly different. And the one game was good, but the other game could have been published by itself, I think, as an incredibly solid Euro-style game. The other one was more of a war-style game. So it's interesting, all this in one box. I would love to play more of these games and see how much they differed from each other, but everyone who played it to me told me how interesting and different the games were, and people were playing different ones. I was excited to play one that no one had play-tested yet. But he's play-testing them all, running computer simulations. This will be very interesting. Almost every game I talked about today will be out at Essen this year, so look forward to those. Hey, I'm Tom Vasel.
Jason Levine.
And today we have a question from Samar, who basically wants to know a question about house rules and new players. So let's say you have a house rule to a game. Maybe in Carcassonne you draw your tile at the end of your turn rather than the beginning. Or like example, Castaways is a game that we play. It's a semi-cooperative game, but when I play it, I'm like, that semi-cooperative thing's stupid. We're just playing straight co-op.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's a minor house rule, minor things, and people do this. So when you have these house rules in a game and someone new comes to the table and they want to learn the game for the first time, do you teach them with the house rule or do you teach them straight? If you teach with the house rule, do you say, hey, this is the house rule, but it may not be the best way to play for everybody, because they may leave the game and go teach other people and then they're teaching them the actual house rule and you've started a problem. And that's how Monopoly has money on free parking.
Yes, it is how Monopoly has money on free parking, which I've always played with my whole life because I thought it was the real rule until I read the rules.
That's like a moment of shining clarity when you first read rules. You're like, what?
There's no free parking money? What?
So what do you do when you, like, I mean, I know you don't use a lot of house rules, but you use a few minor ones probably.
No, I don't use a lot of house rules. Castaways is a good example because I agree with Tom, and when we play it now, we've always said, let's not do the semi-cooperative because it leads to people doing things to not help the group then. Sometimes, yes. And if that happens, then the reality is, one person can be like, I'm not going to sell my stuff because I want to get the points to win the game alone. But really, it should be a game that we all win as a group in a cooperative game. But in general, cooperative games like that, Archipelago, I guess, is a similar type of Euro cooperative game.
Yeah, but okay, but
for goals.
Well, we're going off a tangent, but in that, I'm just saying, in Castaways, you change rules. So when you introduce it to someone new, what do you say?
I say, well, the rule says this, but we don't play with it because it leads to the game not being as good. So we play without it, so it's a true cooperative game, and we can work together as a team.
Right. This is how I do house rules. When I bring the game to the table, I say, this is what we're doing. This is a house rule, though, and I always explain what the house rules are. Carcassonne's a good example, and I'll say, this is what we do, but that's not in the game. That way, if they go off later on, they will hopefully remember that the thing I taught them was a house rule.
Even though I think for Carcassonne, and if you're listening to the Z-Man when you reprint it for your reprint, they should just make it a rule.
Yeah, seriously, come on, Z-Man. Come on. Also, make the farmer scoring make sense.
The farmer scoring did make sense. It used to be...
Which version?
It was 4 points, then it changed to 3 points, but that was Rio Grande. That was when it was still Rio Grande games. It was 4 points originally, then it became 3 points, but...
No, okay, anyway, we're getting way off topic.
But yeah, I mean, if you have a rule like that everyone plays with, I don't think anyone plays Carcassonne where they wait till their turn and then pick the tile and then think, because it slows the game down by at least a good 15 to 20 minutes, which is unnecessary.
Right.
So, in a game like that, I think everyone has their tile in advance and plays it. And the company should think about it and put it in the rules when it's become a standard.
But again, in reference to the question, my opinion is, if you can use house rules, just make sure you explain it they are, so that if they go off and teach the game sometime on their own, they'll teach it properly.
Exactly. It's the best way to do it.
What do you guys think about that? Let us know in the comments. Also, until next... Oh, you can send us your own questions at dicetower@gmail.com. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel.
Jason Levine.
Hello, Internet. It's time for another How to Snakes. No game company makes a game well enough to survive the sorts of rigors it's going to go through at a board game cafe. Frankly, most don't even survive use at home. Very few people can play a game more than 10 times in a year in their own collection, unless it's their very favorite. But here at Snakes and at your cafe, your most popular games are probably going to get played 10 times a day. So, what do? Sleeves. If a game has cards, you're going to want to sleeve them. Some games can be rendered absolutely unplayable if a single card gets marked. Cards wear out. So, if you can sleeve them, sleeve them. Sleeving isn't without its downsides. For one thing, if a game like, say, Dominion has a lot of cards in it, sleeving is going to be expensive. But if it means that that game now lasts you 2 years instead of 4 months, that's worth the investment. If the game has tiles or boards, varnish them. A $10 can of spray varnish can usually coat 2, 3, maybe even 4 games and make the components more resistant to spill damage. Varnish can also help protect dice or other plastic parts that have printing on them. The letter tiles in Word on the Street, for example. For a minimal investment of time and money, you can make a game last a year or 2 longer. Some of your games are going to have consumable components in them. If you've got a Boom Boom balloon, they're going to pop. You need to go to the dollar store and get yourself lots of balloons. But that's hardly the only kind. Games like Seven Wonders, Clue, Yahtzee, they use score sheets or notepads that are going to run out, unless you make a laminated version. One final note, don't be afraid to cannibalize. Now, once a game is dead because it's missing a crucial component, don't throw it away. Keep it, because that game is now a wealth of components that can be harvested to keep another copy alive and well. And don't forget, sign your organ donor card.
Welcome, friends, to another edition of Whitleypedia. Today, we are going to be talking about the Star Wars Episode 7 The Force Awakens trailer that came out last Thursday. Specifically, we're going to be talking about what stuff do we see in the trailer will probably translate at some point into the X-Wing Miniatures game. Okay, so the first and most obvious person that they're going to make a character of is this guy right here. The character's name is Poe Dameron, played by Oscar Isaac. And he is a dedicated X-Wing pilot. Maybe his ability will be he can have 2 elite pilot talents. Maybe his ability will be he moves at one pilot skill, but he shoots at another. I don't know, but I predict it'll be cool. I think they will want him to be a star of the game. Okay, now the other 2 main characters we've got this one. Her name is Rey, and she's some kind of salvager. So her ability will probably be when a ship gets blown up, you can take one of its modifications or secondary weapons and put it on another ship. I think that'd be cool. Good way to simulate the salvaging. And then we got this guy. His name is Finn. And Finn is going to be interesting because he starts off as a stormtrooper and then he becomes a good guy throughout the movie. Or something like that. Maybe he's just in disguise. So maybe there'll be 2 versions of his crew card. Or they can play for either side. I don't know. Could be interesting. Okay, we got BB-88, who might just be another R2. I think his power will be to do exactly what R2 does, but tinier and cuter. Then we got this Stormtrooper who looked like he mugged Iron Man. Maybe something will happen there. Then we got this crazy new evil TIE Fighter. Then we got this weird ship right here, which is probably being piloted by the bad guy Kylo Ren. Probably be able to, kill a crew from another ship at range 1 or something like that. I think it'll be bad. Now, the real question is, will we see older versions of pre-existing characters? Will there be old Han Solo, young Han Solo? I don't know. Well, the one thing you can count on with Star Wars is they will be able to extract as much merchandising as they can from as little content as possible. And we will buy all of it.
Today's our production this week. We got some more reviews coming for you as normal. There's going to be another board game blender, so we're excited about that. There's a couple reviews. I can't tell you about them yet, but just keep an eye out for them. They're coming out this week. We're also going to be, like I said, tomorrow we'll be announcing the Dice Tower Awards, so look for that video. The Dice Tower show will come out tomorrow. We're talking about our top 10 cooperative games. That's something that people like to hear about, I think. So some interesting discussion there, and then we're going to put out other videos throughout the course of the week. So keep that in mind. And of course, you can find all our stuff at dicetower.com.
Chaz Marler from Pair of Dice Paradise here. And the segment that I was planning on the best game to play while stuck in a grain elevator with a pack of feral cats will have to wait, because I received a question. It's Alchemists, by the way. This question comes from Jen Davis 1987 on Twitter, who asks, "Hey Chaz, what are your thoughts on Tabletop Simulator?" Oh, an excellent question, Jennifer, which I will answer in detail eventually. But first, for those not in the know, let's start with a description of just what Tabletop Simulator is. Tabletop Simulator is a software application that's available through the not at all obnoxious Steam platform. Now, many of us have heard of and perhaps played on websites such as Board Game Arena and this one. But whereas these websites are more of an online recreation of a board game, including enforcement of its rules, Tabletop Simulator is different because it's just a sandbox. It provides an online environment and development tools for people to create virtual versions of board games, but there's no rules implementation or action restrictions. For example, logging on to play the version of chess that's available would be just like sitting down at a virtual table with the game in front of you. The pieces replicate their physical interaction with each other and their environment, but each player would need to know and adhere to the rules of the game. Otherwise, it could just descend into chaos. In fact, there is an awful lot of chaos and table flipping in their demo videos. Really, I don't know why they think gamers would be excited about this. I mean, it's like advertising a new car by demonstrating how well the airbags deploy when you inevitably smash into a grain elevator. Anyway, my initial impression is that this could be an incredible resource for RPG games. But since this is a series more about board games, like Alchemists, I'll elaborate on my thoughts about Tabletop Simulator as it relates to board games, and I'll do so in the next episode. In the meantime, tell me, what's your opinion of Tabletop Simulator? Revolutionary board gaming resource in the making? Or just another technological flash in the pan? Let me know in the comments below, because I yearn for your feedback.
Expansion time here, so let's get into some more great expansions. The first one I'd like to talk about is a game that I've run at many conventions and game meetups, and that's one for Pitch Car, and this one is Stunt Race. Now what Stunt Race did is it took Pitch Car to the next level. Literally. You can now go up and have like a second level that would go over things. Now this isn't as spectacular as you might think, because you have to be very careful when having a second level that people's hands can still fit in there and flick the discs. And it's also really hard to go up to that level. It's easy to come down, but going up and people jump and miss it. It's very entertaining. It actually uses those foam pieces that you usually throw away out of things. They're actually an integral part of this expansion. And I enjoy it. I don't use it all the time because it adds sometimes almost too much difficulty to the game, but it was really unique and innovative. Then we have Fresh Meat. This is an expansion for Cutthroat Caverns. This took Cutthroat Caverns and put it all in one box. It's up here in the top shelf because it doesn't fit into any of these. Cutthroat Caverns had many different expansions. Here you can put them all in. So that's one thing I like about it. But it also lets you customize your character. And so you were able to like build your character a little bit, give you kind of a unique character that you would take into the dungeon, and then also gave lots more stuff. So it was just a good expansion. Beyond the Grave for Arcadia Quest added some more stuff. Again, this is another one of those, but added the undead. The original Beyond the Grave had you, the original Arcadia Quest had you fighting orcs and goblins and things, and now you have skeletons and a giant Frankenstein monster, which probably my favorite model in the game. When I first saw the game, I was like, ooh, Frankenstein, always coming out in Beyond the Grave. Okay, fine, but I can't wait. And I like that. I like the silliness of Arcadia Quest. It doesn't take itself too seriously, and the models in this set are, of course, amazing. Then Wrath of the Elements for Thunderstone. This was the very first expansion for Thunderstone. When Thunderstone came out, I liked it. I don't know, how to compare it to Dominion. I like it better now. And this was before Epic Thunderstone came out. But when Wrath of the Elements came out, This makes the list solely because of its box. Nowadays, most deck builders and things, they come with a box with the little foam things that keep all the cards in place, and the dividers, Wrath of the Elements is the thing that introduced that. It put the box inserts for Dominion to shame, and when I saw it, I was like, oh, I just want it for the box. Now, it also had cool stuff. It had fire elementals and more cards that you could use in Thunderstone, and the variety, of course, is always great, and it might have made the list, but it made the list certainly just because it introduced a very innovative way to store cards. And then we have Cosmic Storm. Now, this is many people's least favorite of the new Cosmic Encounter expansions. I don't know, I like it. I really like the satellites. I wish there was more of them. There just was too few of them. And many people don't like the different aliens, but I thought the aliens, I liked the drawings. I thought they were cool and unique and interesting, and I'm always willing to take any alien in the game and see if I can win with it. And this was the first expansion that didn't add another color, another player, but don't think we need one after 8 anyhow. But a solid expansion, headed by Jay Little on the design team. And of course, I just like any expansion for Cosmic Encounter.
In a world of Catan and Monopoly movies, two men dared to pitch better big screen board games. A few weeks ago on Board Game Breakfast number 70, Jared Whitley asked,
Can you really do a movie based on Settlers of Catan? Well, we'll find out together. But the answer is no.
Challenge accepted.
He wasn't challenging us. Well, all right.
A Catan movie would be about a televised, reality-based life and death game. Think of movies like The Truman Show or Hunger Games.
It's the near future, and the world is plagued by overcrowding and limited resources. Contestants on the Catan show are offered a chance at riches if they can tame the island of Catan.
4 teams of 20 contestants each are airlifted onto different areas of Catan, with high-tech equipment to aid in the farming, mining, harvesting, and road building. Their job is to work the land and build the initial settlements to survive.
Our movie focuses on one of those teams, led by the Holtzverschaft family. The father is played by Lenny James from The Walking Dead and Jericho. His wife is played by Uma Thurman from Kill Bill.
Their eldest child is played by Jessica Lewis from Cloverfield, and the youngest member is Jacob Anderson from Game of Thrones.
Every month, an additional 50 contestants per team arrive on Catan, and the teams need to have prepared the necessary infrastructure to survive, including additional settlements, a road network, and basic supplies. When ratings for the show drop, the producers introduce a band of well-armed marauders designed to test the limits of the team's defenses. Those marauders are led by Liam Neeson from, well, he's Liam Neeson. The Holtzverschafts realize they need to arm their team. Their only choice, weaponize the advanced machinery provided to them. Of course, this is all leading up to an epic confrontation between the team and the marauders. Will the Holtzverschafts survive? Here's the tagline. On Catan, you build or you die.
Is this a movie you'd like to see?
Would you cast it differently?
Let us know in the comments below.
Until next time, on the Deuce of Dice.
Hi, Suzanne here with this week's featured board game app, Cuba, full of life, energy, and color, and for those of us in the States, off limits since the 60s. Does the pick up and deliver board game set in Cuba bring some of that magic to us? Well, it's on iOS now, so let's take a quick look. Okay, so that intro was probably a stretch. A bit of worker placement combined with a bit of pick up and deliver, Santiago de Cuba plays over 7 rounds in which you vie for victory points, it's a Euro game after all, by leveraging connections and buildings to gather resources that meet the market demand. The market is set by a dice roll, and building powers let you shift the demand, keeping players on their tactical toes. I was pretty excited to see Santiago de Cuba hit the App Store because it's actually been a little while since a Euro-style game released. Overall, I think the app is a successful port, but it does have issues I'd like to see hammered out in an update. There's a solid tutorial that'll teach you the mechanics of the game, and the rules are pretty good. There's a decent solo play experience, although many feel that the AI is not challenging enough. Pass and play is solid, and it's a good choice because many believe Santiago de Cuba is best at 2 players. And there's online play as well, although to be transparent, I didn't get to test that functionality before this segment. Because Hobby World chose to make the app look a lot like the board game, the screen is pretty crowded. You could say it's evocative of a busy Cuban street, but it makes figuring out your options take longer than necessary, and I feel like the action buttons are too small and finicky to activate. But the real knock against this app is that there's no save function. This is a basic feature for any app because the nature of device gaming is that people often play when they have pockets of time and want to be able to pick up and put down the game at any point. Santiago de Cuba is a nice lighter weight Euro-style game with some rough app edges that keep it from being a top-tier board game app. That said, the game is polished, engaging, and playable, and if you're looking for a new Euro on your device, give it a try.
Now I was reading some of the threads on City Mania, which is the upcoming game from Days of Wonder, and people were saying, what a dumb name, and some people said, I like the name, and back and forth. But the name of a game is really important. The name of a game is something that when you name it that, it's going to attract people to the game. And I just wanted to think about names for a second. I've always told people about names of companies and that you shouldn't name your company after your first game because then in the future that's problematic. But we're not talking about names of companies today, although that could fit in this category too. But when naming a game, it needs to just grab you. Like, for example, the one with the shirt I have, The Castles of Mad King Ludwig. Oh, wow, what's that about? Well, I know it's about castles and of the Mad King Ludwig. Ooh, that sounds intriguing. It's also different. So, a couple things. First of all, I think that if you name your game, I would think to make the game have something unique and also not just a single word, so that when you search for this game, you will find the game. You know, back in the old days on Board Game Geek, RA used to drive everybody nuts because if you search for RA in the database, it would bring up many, 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 many games with RA in them. Now they fixed it so that RA comes up first. But even single word names like castles or zombies, sometimes it doesn't work because, you know, it's so generic. And it might work, in an example, zombies, it has done well for that game, but I think I'd be careful about the genericness of the name. I also think that the pronunciation, you might think that's a really cool name, but if no one can pronounce it, you know, like Agricola, I mean, for the longest time, everyone was pronouncing that name. Now everyone says Agricola, I hope. And there's other, you know, there's other names that I'm looking at them like, ugh. Now I'm not talking about city or country names or names of people because those are obviously very specifically pronounced and you can learn how to do that. But if you name your game some weird name or weird spelling, all right, maybe put a Y where an I is, and so people have a hard time, again, finding it. So when you say the name of the game, it's like, oh, okay, how do we find this game? How do you spell that? What did you just say? Then we have, sometimes some of the name things are interesting. A long time ago, I talked to Eric Hodemat from Days of Wonder, and I talked about Ticket to Ride. And isn't that the same name as the Beatles song? And he said yes, and he hoped that the Beatles would try to sue them for that because it would bring publicity to the game. Now, Ticket to Ride, as you can see, does not need that publicity. It's doing very well. And I wouldn't recommend naming your game like that, but think about that. I mean, I don't think you can name your game Indiana Jones the game, but you might name it something that reminds people of that, and it helps with the theming. And then there's boring names, right? How many of these games behind me have interesting names? Well, some of them do. You know, Carnival Zombie. What an intriguing name. But at the same time, Jet Set. What's that even about? It's about jets. What's the Jet Set? You know, so there's some names that, Catan, you know, is that an exciting name? It really isn't. Now, everyone knows what it is, and it's achieved recognition, but I don't know. I would try to name a game that's interesting. Now, you gotta be careful with these subtitles, though. There's so many games here that have a regular name, and then there's this long subtitle, and I'm like, oh, that is really the full name of the game. For example, we have Escape, The Curse of the Temple. Okay, but most people just call it Escape. And sometimes the names are so long that people use abbreviations for them. You know, most people say WOTR instead of War of the Ring, even though that's not really that long of a name. But just keep that in mind. Also keep in mind what the initials of your game, what word they may make. I don't know, this isn't anything I have like solid opinions on, but I really think a lot of people don't put as much thought into the name of the game. And I think a name of the game should grab you. I think when you hear the name of a game, it should be something you're like, wow, that really is interesting. Like, for example, Cosmic Encounter, which is an old game. That's such a great name. Cosmic Encounter. I'm encountering something from outer space. That sounds interesting. Dominion. Dominion what? What does that even mean? Oh, it's a deck building game. Huh? And I mean, again, I'm not saying that these games are bad at all. I really like Dominion, but I don't know that the name is there. Shadows over Camelot. What an intriguing name. That sounds interesting here. What other games we have here? Roll for the Galaxy. Well, that sounds interesting. Kingsburg. Maybe. I don't know. So anyhow, what do you guys think about names? I'd love to hear your opinions. What names do you think are, why did they name the game this for whatever reason? Or other games where you're like, wow, that's a name that just grabs me. So anyhow, let's keep moving.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to The Discriminating Gamer. Now, a few weeks ago, the great Chaz Marler did a segment on all the games in his collection that he hasn't played, and that got me to thinking, what games in my collection have I not played yet? Let's take a look. Well, I guess that's all of them. No, wait! Now that's all of them. So, which game do you think I should play next? I want to know. What do you think? Leave a comment. Let me know. Which game should I play next?
Please somebody help me on my feet again, and I don't.
Hi, I'm Ian from Open Box Games Jr., and I'm back with another component moment. Today, we're going to take a look at Battle Sheep by Blue Orange Games. Let's open the box. The game begins with your usual pasture of stacked sheep. White, black, and red, and blue sheep. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. The goal of the game is to take over as much of the pasture as you can. And it comes with these durable sheep that will take the hits in this epic battle. The game also comes with these strong cardboard tiles that let you change the game every time you play. I'm so excited about this great game for kids and adults! Oh dear. It even comes with this great insert that makes cleanup easier. So I'm Ian from Open Box Games Jr. So see you next time. Bye!
And that's it for today. Board Game Breakfast is finished. And again, I apologize that it's late, but I'll try to have it up faster next week. Okay, keep an eye on this channel for content. Keep an eye out to all the different podcasts that are part of the Dice Tower Network. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching the Dice Tower Board Game Breakfast.
Thanks for watching Board Game Breakfast. Tune in each week for your daily dose of gaming goodness with Tom Vasel and all the gang. Until next time, I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching Board Game Breakfast, a Dice Tower production, sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., an amazing place to buy board games. Cool stuff in stock at CoolStuffInc.com.